Hi, this is Shannon. This is Cycle 1, Week 15, Tutor and Memory Work Ideas. If you are new to my channel, I am a homeschooling mom of 3 little ones, 5, 3, and 1, and we do classical homeschooling and love it. And I get to tutor the obesitarians in our homeschool group, which I love. So that's the 4 through 6-year-olds, the little ones. So these ideas are with them in mind, but you can definitely adjust these ideas or use most of them for older kids too. Make sure you stick around to the end of this video. I have more memory work activities that you can do with your kids at home this week. They align with all the subjects for Cycle 1, Week 15. So I will show those and explain how to get them at the end of this video. We are going to start today with English like usual. I have my notebooks that I made for the kids, and I wrote helping verbs and then the first 3. So I wrote the first one, do, and then I wrote the second one with dots, does, so they can trace it. And then I just wrote a horizontal line for the third one so they can write it themselves. You can adjust this however you think is appropriate for the level of your kids. They could write all of them. You could write all of them for them and they could just trace some. You could write 2 of them and have them trace the last one. Lots of options. Again, we are doing do, does, and did this week. And we are going to sing the song that I started last week to This Old Man. We're going to keep singing this song through week 19. All right, the whole song goes like this. Helping verbs, help another verb assert, action, being, or existence. Helping verbs make lots of sense. Helping verbs, do, does, did, has, have, had, may, must, might, should, could, would, shall, will, can. Helping verbs, they lend a hand. So I'll let the kids write in their notebooks. We'll sing the song a couple times together. I'm also going to teach the kids some hand motions for these. For do, we're going to do a thumbs up, do. For does, we're going to point to somebody else like does. And then for did, we're going to pat our back like this. So do, does, did. So I'll teach them that. I'll let them sing with me a couple times doing those hand motions. And then I also like to review the whole entire preposition song that we learned first semester because it doesn't take that long and the kids love it. So I just like to run through it with them each week, and then we'll probably present it to the parents at the end of the year. So I'll link my video below where I have the whole entire song if you want to review that. Also, at the end, I usually give the kids a sticker to put on the front of their books. I made this biology design with each kid's name on it for their book. This is not a kid in my class. This is just an example. Each kid has their own book, and I give them a sticker to put on their book each week. So by the end of the semester, they'll have 24 plus stickers on their book, and then they get to take them home at the end of the year. For timeline this week, I have my timeline cards. I like to put these letters on the top of each one. I get these letters at the dollar store just because I have younger kids in my group. Some of them can't read and it just helps them identify them. So I've been doing that for a while. I also get these timeline cards from Classical Conversations from their bookstore. So I will link where you can get them. They're really handy to have at home too. We do go through all 4 sets throughout each year. So it's good to have all of them. So I will have these hidden around the room before our class time starts. And when we get to timeline, I'll tell the kids to go find a timeline card and bring it back to their seat. So they bring it back to their seat, and then we will go over the timeline events in order, and whoever has each event will get to put that up on the wall. So I put 7 pieces of painter's tape up on the wall that the kids can stick them to so we can see them in order. And I'm going to be really intentional this week to put them in a place so the kids will easily be able to see them in order on the wall for our next activity. The first event is Japan's isolation. So I'll say, okay, who has Japan's isolation? What does Japan start with? To J, awesome. Okay, whoever has that one, go put that on the first spot on the wall. So they will do that. Let's see if I can find, there's Japan's isolation. So they'll go do that. we'll keep doing that until they're all stuck on the wall. Then once they're on the wall, I will give each child a set of these mini timeline cards. These are awesome. If you haven't seen them, they're on CC Connected. I'll have a link below where you can find them. And they're just really cute. They're just little. So I print them out, just the ones we're doing this week. And I went ahead and laminated them just so they'd be a little bit stronger. And I made a set for each kid. So I'll put them in a little Ziploc bag and then just hand out a set to each child, and I will encourage them to try to put them in order. And I will either play this week's part of this timeline song as they're doing it so they can hear it, or I'll just sing it. Sometimes I like to just sing it because then I can control the speed and it just works better, but you could also just record the part that we're doing this week and play it either way. And I'll help them and, encourage them that they can look at the wall if they need help, because the big timeline cards will be, in order on the wall. Then once they all have them in order, I will tell them to go stand in front of the timeline cards, and we will go over the motions together and then sing the whole song together trying to do the motions. For our motions this week, we have Japan's isolation, and then Jamestown. So I'm going to do a J with my pinky. Jamestown and Plymouth. So I'm going to make a P. Colony founded. So I'm just going to go like that for founded. So Jamestown and Plymouth Colony founded. Age of Enlightenment. So I'm going to put my hands on my head like that and go out. Age of Enlightenment. And then Hudson's Bay Colony. So I'm going to have my H. Hudson's Bay, and then I'm going to kind of walk up my arm like that and then do my motion for trade. So Hudson Bay's Company. Okay, and then first grade awakening, I'm going to do first and kind of flip it around like this, first, and then go by my eyes and go like that for awakening, first grade awakening. And then for classical period of the arts, I'm going to go like this. And then the 7 Years' War, I bring my ring finger and thumb together for 7, and then years, war. So we will do the motions together and sing this week's part of the timeline song together. It goes like this. Japan's isolation, Jamestown and Plymouth Colony founded. Age of Enlightenment, circa 1650 to circa 1800. Hudson's Bay Company, first grade awakening. Classical period of the arts, the 7 Years' War. So that is timeline this week. For geography this week, we are doing the Middle East. I have my trivium table map. I prepare these for each child before our class time by just outlining each of the features in a different color. I did it a little bit in this top part too, so they could see how this is zoomed in right here. You could definitely just laminate the classical conversations map that you can find on CC Connected in the Sandbox easing too, if you don't have these trivium table maps. So what I'm going to do is hand out a map to each child, tell them that we're talking about the Middle East this week, and I'm also going to give them a little tiny hand because these are tiny places this week on our map, so we need our little tiny hand to point to them. So they can put this hand on their finger. I love these. I use them a lot. They're fun. And point as we talk about each location. So first we are talking about Israel. So that is in green right here. Israel, the Sinai Peninsula is in orange. The Suez Canal is in red right by the Sinai Peninsula. Cairo is our purple city here by the Nile River and Nile River Delta. And then the Gaza Strip is in turquoise right here. And I'll ask them, hey, does anybody know what is this sea right here? See if they can figure it out. I'll say, hey, look up here. Oh, it's the Mediterranean Sea. That's so cool. And does anybody know what country this is right here? Oh, it's Egypt. And just try to help them make the connection between what we've already been talking about. So I'm going to teach them a song to the tune Do Your Ears Hang Low, and it goes like this. Middle East, Israel, Sinai Peninsula, Suez Canal, Cairo, Gaza Strip. Middle East, Israel, Sinai Peninsula, Suez Canal, Cairo, Gaza Strip. And I'll have them sing that song with me and point to the different parts on their map with their little tiny hand as we sing it together. And that is what we'll do for geography. I also like to ask them review questions while they already have their maps out. So like I said, what sea is this? What country is this? Who remembers the name of this river, the Nile River? I'll ask, do you remember any of the places we talked about last week in ancient Africa? So ancient Ghana, ancient Mali. What about Western Sahara? Where is that? What about Tangier and Fez? All kinds of things. They're right there on their map. So it's a great time to review. We're also having a great time at home learning about Africa, and as you can see behind me, we've been enjoying our Africa map that I made with countries that you can snap on and off. They're felt countries. So if you are curious how we made that, or if you are interested in the patterns, I will link below where you can find those. I am going to do science right after geography this week because we are using our maps again. So this is the other side of the Trivium table map. Before class, I will draw a little mountain where all the highest mountains in each continent are with a different color, dry erase marker. And I am going to give the kids a little baggie of some of these huge chocolate gems. There's 7 mountains, so I'm going to give them a baggie of 7 of these. Obviously, check with the parents beforehand before giving them any chocolate or any food, but I like these better than Hershey Kisses. They're a little bit, hopefully, better for you, but you could use Hershey Kisses too. I'm going to tell the kids that we're not going to eat these yet, but to put one beside each mountain. Once they have a little chocolate gem beside each mountain, not on top of it because I want them to be able to see the color of the mountain, but beside it, then I am going to teach them a song to the tune She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain, and it goes like this. What is each continent's highest mountain? Everest in Asia, Aconcagua in South America, Denali in North America, Kilimanjaro in Africa, Elbrus in Europe, Kosciuszko in Australia, Vincent Massif in Antarctica. So we'll sing that a few times and I'll have them kind of point to each mountain on their map. And as I sing it, I'll hold up my map and kind of point to each color as we sing. Plus seeing the continents will help them know where it is too. So we will do that a few times. And then the great thing about having these little huge chocolates or Hershey's Kisses on each mountain is I can say, okay, I want everybody to take their chocolate off the green mountain. Who remembers what the green mountain is called? Oh, Denali in North America. Awesome. Take that one off and put it back in your baggie. Now take the one off of the mountain in Europe. What's that one called? Elbrus in Europe. Great. Take that one off and put it in your baggie. Then take one off the mountain in Africa. What's that one called? The orange one. That's Kilimanjaro, etc. I'll have them take them all off and put them back in their baggie until the only one that's left on the map is Mount Everest. And I'll say, okay, who knows what the last mountain that's left on your map is called? See if anybody knows and say, what's special about this mountain? This is the tallest mountain in the whole world. That's so exciting. And then I'll let them eat that chocolate if it's okay with their parents. I'm not going to let them eat all of them. They can take the rest home in their baggie, but I'll let them eat that one. After this, I'm going to have the kids stand up and go into the back of the room. And I'm going to tell them they all have to close their eyes. I'll probably have them turn backwards so they won't be able to see what I'm going to do in a sec. And close their eyes. And then really, really fast, I'll have some parents help me with this. I have these printouts of these photographs of all the mountains with a picture of the continent that they're on the back. I'm just going to have the parents help me tape these up to the front of the classroom with painter's tape up on the wall as fast as we can because the kids are closing their eyes. And just, mixed up on the wall, but at a height where the kids can easily feel them. They're not going to be super far away from each other, kind of in a clump, but again, so the kids can reach them. And the kids are still closing their eyes, so the parents are going to help me do that. That should just take a minute. And then I'm going to use these little masks. We had these from Fine Arts when we did orchestra last year, and I have some left over, or you could just use some kind of blindfold. And I'm going to put these over each kid's eyes so then they don't have to keep their eyes closed anymore, but I don't want them to look yet. One at a time, I'm going to have the kids still blindfolded walk to the front of the room and find one of the mountains on the wall and take it off. They'll take off one, then I'll have another kid go take off another one. The first one they touch, they take, they don't look at yet. Their eyes are still covered with the mask. Then the next kid goes, we'll do it kind of quickly because they won't want to keep their eyes closed for too long. Then I'll have them all take their mask off and say, okay, we have to figure out what mountain we have. So we'll look around and I'll say, who thinks they know what mountain they have? And, say this person's trying to figure it out. And I'll say, if you don't have any idea, maybe look at the back and see if that helps you. So, what continent is that? Australia. Do you remember what mountain was in Australia? And I'll sing the song a little bit to remind them. So we'll help each other figure out what each person's mountain is. And I do have these labeled on top. So you could either keep the name on the top if you have really young kids that can't read yet. If you have older kids that can read, I would not include that. So it makes it a little bit harder and they can just use the help of the continent on the back to figure it out. So depending on the level of your kids, you can chop that name off or keep it on. So I do have these available. You can just download them and print them if you want to use them. They're also a great resource for at home just to see what the mountains look like. But we will do that, and that is science this week. For math this week, we're talking about metric measurements. And I'm going to bring in a meter stick. I don't have one on hand right now, but I'm going to bring in a meter stick and show them a millimeter, how 10 millimeters equals a centimeter, how 100 centimeters equals this whole meter stick, just so they have a visual. And then I'm going to teach them this song to the tune 10 Little Indians, and it goes like this. 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter, 100 centimeters equals 1 meter, 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer. These are the metric measurements. So I'm going to give each kid a silly voice card. So you can download these for free from my blog, but we've got like soft voice, mouth open, slow voice, etc. Or you can make these silly voice sticks. I kind of alternate what I use. Like this one says fish pucker face, loud to soft, whisper. They're like the same idea, but just because these are sticks and those are cards, it changes it up for the kids. So I'll give each kid one and then we'll rotate singing that song in our different silly voices, which is really fun. I like doing silly voices with the kids for at least one of the subjects most weeks because especially towards the end of the time when they're getting tired, it makes them laugh, it keeps them engaged, it helps them really remember the song. It's great. And super easy to do. So that is math this week. For history this week, we are doing silly words. So what that means is I will sing the history sentence normally for the kids, or you could also play it if you don't want to sing it. And I'll tell them to listen really carefully because after I sing it normally, I'm going to throw some silly words in and they have to tell me if they hear a silly word. So the normal way that it goes is like this. In the 1400s, Prince Henry of Portugal founded a school of navigation. His work advanced European exploration and trade, including the slave trade. So now I'm going to throw some silly words in. So if you hear a silly word, raise your hand and tell me what it should be. In the 1400s, Prince Henry, Prince Henry, sorry. Okay, so then I go back to the beginning and do it right until the next silly word. In the 1400s, Prince Henry of Dougal, no, it should be, Portugal, okay. So then again, I go to the beginning and do it right until the next silly word. So they're hearing it right a lot of times, which is one of the reasons I really like doing this. The silly words I chose this week are, like I did, Harry for Henry, Dougal for Portugal, pool for school, stork for work, Korean for European, parade for trade, and cave for slave. The next thing we're going to do is I found these little guitars at the dollar store. They actually strum, so they're really cool. They don't always have them at the dollar store, but I've seen them there a couple times. So if you ever see them, get some. They're great to have. And I'm just going to let the kids strum and sing along as we sing the history sentence a few more times. For Latin this week, I have my little Cookie Monster because he has really big eyes. And we are going to do the first declension noun endings. So what I'm going to do is have the kids sit in a circle, and we're going to play Duck, Duck, Goose, but Duck, Duck, Cookie, because he's Cookie Monster. And each kid gets a turn holding the puppet, and we're going to go around and say the noun endings, and I'm going to encourage them to just gently tap on somebody's head or shoulder each time we say a different noun ending. So not like, randomly, but just each time. So the way it will go this week is ah, I am ah, I am ah, I am ah, singular first declension. And then I usually just do the first half for the first kid, and then whoever's head they just tapped on, they get to be the next puppet holder. Then they get to do the plural part. Otherwise, it would just take a while. So if you have some time, you can let each kid go through all the singular and the plural. But if you don't have as much time, you could just do one kid does singular, next kid does plural, and then alternate. So one of the reasons I like Cookie Monster is his eyes, because we pronounce A-E like I. And then I also think, he goes to the dentist a lot because he eats a lot of cookies. And at the dentist, you say, ah. So just like the A with a line over it is pronounced ah. So just a good way to help them remember. But any puppet is great. And I love using puppets, especially with the younger kids. So that is Latin. For review this week, we're going to play four corners. So I have these numbers. You can print out these if you want, or just write numbers on sticky notes. But I'm going to tape one of these numbers to each corner of the room. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to tell the kids to go stand in a corner, and I'm going to make sure they divide themselves evenly. So there's at least 1 or 2 kids in each corner, depending on how many kids you have. And I'm going to ask a review question and then roll a die. So I have a big foam die. I forgot to bring it, but big foam die, or you could just use a normal die. And then whatever number I roll, anybody from that corner can answer the question that I ask. If I roll a 5, I'll just roll again. If I roll a 6, it's a free-for-all, and anybody can answer. So for example, I might say, tell me one of the places in ancient Africa that we learned last week. And then, say I rolled a 1. So anybody in corner number 1 can answer. If they get it right and you want to keep score, you have a parent help keep score, then, team 1 gets a point. Then I'll roll again and say, who remembers where the Kush mine gold? Remember we talked about that? The Kush mine gold along, and see if anybody can answer that in the corner that I roll. So that is what we're going to do for review. Like I promised, I want to show you the activities I made that you can do with your kids at home to practice the memory work this week. I love making these. Our kids love games, and it's just such a fun way to practice the memory work, playing a game. So the one I'm most excited about is this game. So it looks pretty crazy, but you can just print out the 4 pages and tape them together. So it's the highest mountain game, similar to Ticket to Ride, if you've ever played that. Our family, that's like our favorite game. So I made what I call trekking cards to play with, and ticket cards that have routes from mountain to mountain. So basically, you can play with your kids where you have some cards and you're trying to collect enough cards to complete a route from one mountain to another. So super fun way to just practice where the mountains are. I'm really excited about this one. For history, I made this little board game with different pictures symbolizing the different parts of the history sentence. And I have this spinner. I just make a little spinner with a paper clip and a brad. And then I have these cards too with the different images on them. So the idea is the kids spin the spinner and move a game marker to whatever picture they spun, and then try to say that part of the history sentence or the history sentence until the part where they landed, and you can see the sentence part on the spinner. And then they keep going, and then whoever finishes first wins. For English, I made these helping verb cards. So you can play Go Fish with these. That's the idea. You could do lots of things with these, but I suggest printing 4 copies of them so you can have groups of 4 of each one and play Go Fish. And each one has the helping verb, a sentence using the helping verb, and a little picture. So great resource to work on the helping verbs with your kids. Like I showed last week for math, I have metric measurements and linear measurements dominoes cards that you can play. For geography, I have this map where I did this last semester. Your kids can roll a die, and then whatever number they roll, they have to try to guess what place matches that number. And I have one map with the places named on it and one map with the names not on it. So you can use whichever one you think is appropriate. And then for Latin, I have my bingo game again. I had this last semester, but it has all the Latin noun endings on it. So it's a great way to just practice that and little pictures to help you pronounce them. I'll link down below my resource library where you can go and download all of these for free. I hope you and your family enjoy them. Thanks so much for watching. If you are enjoying my videos, please subscribe to my channel. I'm posting at least 1 video per week relating to homeschool, tutor ideas, songs we make up to help us learn the memory work, also videos relating to healthy living, healthy recipes. And check out my Instagram. I like to post what I'm doing with my kids throughout the week, homeschool-wise, what activities we do. Also, check out my blog where I have all these plans written up and all these free resources I talked about. I also wanted to share with you that I made a Cycle 1 picture book list for 2nd semester, so weeks 13 through 24. These are awesome books that you can read at home with your kids that relate to the memory work for each week. So be sure to check that out. I will link that in the description below. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.